Okay, good morning and welcome to the second edition of the HSSC HR Conclave. Now, before we begin formally, and I hand it over to my host our host for the program, Ms. Joy Gupta. I would request my colleague Parul Tripathi to start with the HSSC gratitude prayer. I would just request all of you to just listen to it very carefully. And Parul, it's over to you.
Yeah. So we start with the gratitude prayer. I'm grateful for who I am. I'm grateful for what I can do. I'm grateful for the family I have. I'm grateful for the love I receive. I'm grateful for the love I give. I'm grateful for the respect I receive. I'm grateful for the respect I give. I'm grateful for the food we eat. I'm grateful to be a learner. I'm grateful to be a teacher. I'm grateful to the creator and the universe. I'm eternally grateful, grateful, grateful. Thank you all.
Thank you, Parul. We have this kind of a tradition of starting with the gratitude prayer for all our major events. Thank you so much. It is my pleasure now to hand it over to Joy Gupta, who is a wonderful HR professional herself, a fantastic associate of HSSC, and she's our host and moderator for our conclave. So let's welcome Joy Gupta.
Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you, sir, for that wonderful introduction and giving me this opportunity to be the moderator for today's session. And a very good morning and a very warm welcome to all. Thank you for joining us for the second edition of the virtual conclave by HSSE. I am Juhi Gupta, your moderator for today's event, and I am an HR professional with almost 14 years of experience. And in my current role as a corporate trainer, I'm delighted to be associated with HSSC as Project Lead Corporate Relations. I would also like to welcome Ms. Parul Tripathi as Project Lead CHIC Program and a
Are you ready?
So just to give you a brief background about him, Mr. Sharma is an author, L&D LMS e-learning content consultant with over 15 years of experience in trainings. Dilip sir has been associated with Indian Air Force as Air Warrior Mechanical for 18 years before venturing into the corporate world. And he has been associated with organizations like ICICI Prudential Life Insurance, Deloitte Consulting, Max New York Life, and DHFL Primerica Life.
Dilip, you're there?
Yes, I'm there.
He is the founder of Multinode Solutions, which is an e-learning solution provider helping trainers, educators, and organizations go online and provide end-to-end learning management solutions. His specialty is that he can speak 8 languages and deliver trainings in 5 languages comfortably. In this session, Dilip sir will help organizations and education institutes discover how they can stay relevant in the coming times. Sir, over to you for the session.
Thank you so much, Juhi. Thank you so much for that extensive introduction to begin with. So am I audible to all?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. So relevance. When this topic was thought about and the word relevant rang into my mind, there was another word that came to my mind, and that was covalent. So if any of you would recall what we learned in physics, and it's a mix of physics and chemistry where you have these covalent bonds. Whenever something new has to be created, whenever something new forms, it is only possible through those free valence electrons that are available within the atoms, and they move around, join, and form something new, and they become relevant from irrelevant. So somehow this kept on ringing in my mind as a very important aspect of relevance. Today, when we talk about relevance, and there was a very good example in the presentation given by Mr. Ajay Sachdeva. It was not just the new efforts that would be put in place, but the relevance of those efforts in an effort to get the desired results. So relevance plays a very, very important role in whatever we do in our day-to-day life. It is not just to do with our work, it is to do with any and everything that we do. Yeah, Mr. Prasad, thank you for that. Covalent bond between carbon atoms. So in fact, the power of these bonding is such that it could create a fission or a fusion. And either ways, whether it is fission or a fusion that happens, there is something new that gets created. If it is fission, it has power enough to destroy and recreate on a new level. So that's enough about science, and let's understand about relevance now. So I seek permission to share screen now.
Yeah, you are already the co-host. Yeah.
So I hope the screen is visible now.
Yeah.
And I'm sure all of you would be happy that we are beginning with the thank you. So thank you for giving me this opportunity. And it is definitely a pleasure that I am given an opportunity to talk about something that really is deep-rooted to me, because I believe that when we talk about relevance, the most relevant is about people. Anything and everything to do with people is of utmost importance and relevance. And that has been highlighted much in these pandemic times. And when Mr. Ajay Sachdeva was talking about, he was talking all about being relevant to the people that the company is made up of. So kudos to Eureka folks for what they have done in that. So staying relevant. Nobody cares about you, your brand, or your company. You're irrelevant until proven otherwise. I found this quote very, very powerful by Mr. Steve Woodruff. What a wonderful quote. And all the time, we are trying to talk about brand, we are talking about company, but all that is irrelevant as long as the person advocating the brand of the company is relevant. And the person is capable of doing that. Therefore, staying relevant and the way or the manner in which it is being done is relevant. So, relevance in terms of, let me hide this, yeah. Relevance in terms of the product, the service, and the people. Now, we are all forced to go digital. Again, there were enough examples of the various digital activities that were done in the activities that Eureka Forbes did, and as was shared by Mr. Sachdeva. We could blame it on the pandemic. And had it not been for the pandemic, I'm sure even Eureka Forbes would not have thought of fast forwarding all these activities that they have done on the digital front. They talk about do-it-yourself kits, digital kits of WhatsApp calls and support over WhatsApp. They talk about supporting the families through constant communication. All of that was done digitally because that was the only option left. It's like, I give this example most number of times, and although it sounds very rustic, but it is something that is very, very effective. And this is what was given to me by my grandfather. When I sought advice on everything, he used to say, look, you're running down a blind alley and you're chased by a mad dog. Do you want advice how to save yourself, or will you find it yourselves? And of course, the answer is clear to all of us. We would find it ourselves. And we would find it more so because it is a matter of survival. So we got into this digital mode today when the pandemic hit us, more so with the survival instinct and with the mindset of surviving, not with a long-term perspective at all. So what I would like to urge all of us here today to look at this aspect and think how this can be a long-standing adoption of the strategy, because these are situations that are going to last. And digital is going to be the way forward, whether we like it or not. The pandemic has only speeded up the adoption of digital modes, whether it is in communication, sales, exploration, learning, whatever. So when we talk about the digital universe around us, we are already a part of the digital universe. We pay our electricity bills, water bills, government services through CSC ICT platforms. So when we talk about water bills, electricity bills, people would come back and tell me, look, people don't do that in the villages, but mind you, in the villages, they go and do it at the CSC, Common Service Center, which is again a process which has adopted the IT strategy of the country. So our gradual dependence on digital modes of payment, and surprisingly, how many of us really have passbooks today? Checkbooks too have become redundant. Email, WhatsApp, Facebook, Instagram are mainstay. How many of us? A telegraph has of course died out. Letters are rare, and even invitations today, more so now in the pandemic, are sent on WhatsApp or on mail. Even marriage invitations to the most close of the family members, हमारे यहाँ कहा जाता है कि भाई, if you don't invite certain relations personally, they take offense. But today, even that has changed. The mobile handheld device has become so powerful. They are no longer only phones. They are no longer phones with a camera. They have replaced a multiple number of gadgets. I remember the speech when Steve Jobs launched the iPhone, and he talked about how the iPhone is a combination of multiple gadgets, a combination of a phone, a combination of a messaging service, and a combination of music player. What the iPhone effectively did was, post the iPhone being launched, one of Apple's most sought after product, iPod, lost market. So this is evolution, and this would happen. This has been happening. This will continue to happen. Adoption of the change, adoption of technology is important, and if we do not, then there is a challenge which we would have to face. Our digital persona also is in place. If you were to look at, you're trapped and there is no escape. You have your Facebook profile, you have your Instagram profile, LinkedIn profiles. You might have further some more specific community profiles, digital visiting cards, personal websites, blogs, blog spots, blog pages, and video profiles. Today, your Times, Naukri, etc. ask for a video profile. Your matrimony websites have gone online, digital. Everything is done through videos and video conferencing. So if we were thinking that is only interviews that are done, or if it is only learning programs that happen online, there's a lot more that happens online. And I am also aware of certain programs, and those are religious programs, pujas, done online, where the mobile which has the video streaming of the Panditji is kept at a high place, and instructions are followed, and the puja is carried out like the Panditji was there. So adoption and adaptation, both are natural to humans. It is actually unnatural to oppose. However, we find a lot of challenge in adoption when it comes to a job, when it comes to our workplace, and we say this is difficult because that seems to be something that is forced upon us. However, what one needs to realize, and this is a challenge that leaders face in getting the adoption of digital strategy by one and all in the company. So the way forward is you would have a digital identity, there would be digital matchmaking. When I say digital matchmaking, oh, there is a lot there. Digital matchmaking is matchmaking where your blood samples would be taken for matching before, to make the ideal partner. And you would have also heard of the, surrogate motherhood. And in that surrogacy also, there is a lot of customization of the embryo that is taken up. It is mind-boggling to the extent to which digital, the extension of digital presence has hit us in our daily life. Digital HR processes, I'm sure, is known to all of us. Digital education, we are aware digital learning happens. In short, you can look at it as we are stuck with a digital life or we are blessed with a digital life. So let me share some trends with you which are forecast. So research and markets forecasts that by 2026, the global learning industry is projected to reach $3.3 trillion US. And this was 1 year back, the projection. I'm sure they would be redressed. In the sense, this 3.3 trillion would be much higher in their newer research. E-learning can increase student retention rates from 25% to 60%. And who says e-learning is not effective? The data from Forbes says e-learning can increase student retention rates from 25% to 60%. That is interesting. For all those who think that e-learning will not be effective. Digital learning is the quickest growing market in the education industry with a whopping 900% growth since 2000. And this is none other than KPMG's report. Online student enrollment in the US has increased for the last 14 years in a row. Now, this is a very interesting piece of data where we talk about online student enrollments increasing year on year for 14 years in a row. And the more important piece of this data is college enrollments in the US have been continually declining over the last 10 years. A very specific piece of data that goes to show that education has also gone online and acceptable. So these were coming irrespective of the pandemic or not. And then there are some trends in learning. There are primary trends, there are secondary trends. And this is by Online Learning Consortium. They have the data there. They talk about adaptive learning, open resources, gamifications, massive courses, blended learning, virtual reality, artificial intelligence, all of this. But all said and done, artificial intelligence is still artificial. It is still learning. And all that learning happens from us humans. We need to give that respective input to create those algorithms which create the artificial intelligence or make that specific code intelligent enough. So humans will always be there at the center of it while coding, while being subject matter experts for the coding, while being trials for the coding, for being the users and being the ones giving the feedback. Humans are never out of the picture there. Somewhere in our minds we have that we humans will be out of the whole picture. Never. The blended learning after online education has become a form of learning that has been going on for some time now. So let me tell you that there are two kinds of online learning that we talk about, and that is asynchronous and synchronous. When we say asynchronous, there is no individual instructor in place in direct communication, and synchronous is where it's an instructor-led program. So now think about it. A combination of both is what will be effective. Of course, it involves infrastructure, delivery options, content creation tools, and enabling the trainers. These are all the areas in which a lot of work has to be done to make this effective and the norm going forward. So I will be taking the questions at the end. So let me just finish this. This is not, again, delivery options are multiple: computer-based training, webinars. We heard examples of webinars by Mr. Ajay Sachdeva. Then we know about MOOCs, which are the massive open online courses like your Coursera's and Udemy's. Similar things, when adopted by companies, they become COOCs, which are for specific businesses. SPOCs are for individuals at trainers and training companies like us. And of course, we are aware of the virtual instructor-led training.
Safe option, which is dim sum.
So just a little information about MOOCs.
So what is in your mind? Tell me, you're not able to say anything to me. You're getting angry at me for not choosing.
It's not on
Hari,
mute.
can I need your help? I need your help to mute.
Yeah, I'm just doing that.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
So a little about MOOCs. Invented in 2006, and today we are in 2021. It's only 15 years since MOOCs have been developed. But the first Asian MOOC was developed in 2012. But see the market. Global MOOC market expected to reach 21.4 billion by 2025. Fastest growing market for MOOCs is the Asia Pacific region between 2020 to 2025. 44% of learners who use MOOCs have a postgraduate degree. The problem of access has been conquered to a great extent. However, there is a lot of work that is going on and a lot is being done. So there are various problems that it cuts. It cuts cost. It works anywhere, anytime, on any device. Students learn at their own pace. Pre-recorded courses, screen sharing, demonstrative teaching, administrative tasks are handled easily. Students develop authentic work, quizzes, other gamifications, all that. The challenges are resistance to change, lack of IT support, technology is changing continuously, resource and internet connectivity related challenges are there. There is this challenge of personalized or human interaction, which can be solved through synchronous trainings. Software might not be optimized for mobile devices at time, but today, with SaaS-based delivery platforms available, it is all gadget friendly. Security issues also haven't tackled to a great extent, and lack of training for teachers, yes, is an area that is being addressed and needs to be addressed quickly. Just like we had an expansion for fear, we have an expansion for dear. We need to hold online trainings dear to ourselves now. And by dear, I mean we need to take care of delivery, engagement, assessment, and reporting. Delivery, engagement, assessment, and reporting, if these 4 parameters are addressed effectively, the online platform becomes a wonderful tool to look forward to for further learning engagements. And the only strategy that would help everybody is adapt or evaporate. I'm sure we all would want to adapt rather than evaporate, because the education sector as well as universities and companies need freedom of flexibility. There is a thirst for wide selection of programs, customizable learning experience. Now, this is where artificial intelligence comes into play. And of course, when there is a larger demand, when there is more people wanting this kind of approach, the cost effectiveness will come into a picture and will be addressed. So now we come to this important point here where I want to make a very effective point here, that technology cannot be your mainstay for a strategy. Technology is a tool that helps your strategy, Technology is a tool that aids your strategy. Technology is a tool that will extend your strategy, but technology cannot be the mainstay. And when I say this, what I mean to say is we should always be ready to adapt further and further, because there would be changes on a very regular basis. There would be newer platforms, newer, if I were to say, integrations coming into the same platform. So learning and adapting is something that is going to be a continuous need. Now, is this news? Learning and adapting to be a continuous requirement is not breaking news at all, because that was the need even now, with newer concepts coming in, newer thoughts coming in, newer plans, ideas coming in play. It was required. We were doing it, but we were doing it in a face-to-face classroom sessions. However, what is great is we are now going to have all of this online and can be done much more effectively, or if not as equally better. So choose your platforms wisely, stay consistent and competent. Yes, blow your own trumpet. Be and project what you are. Take help and retain authenticity. Keep learning, because that's life. So that brings me to the end of this presentation. So what I was saying is, and the point that I was trying to make is, there is enough data, there is enough proof of concept, there is enough that has been done to prove that online education is capable, will be the mainstay going forward, because it gives us the freedom to do things as we would like. It gives us the choice of choosing over multiple, if I were to do the multiple programs earlier, I had to find multiple instructors, and then I had to look at the feasibility of attending their classes, of being able to travel to their locations, of being able to communicate with them on a regular basis. Today, if I were to look at answering these challenges, they are answered. There are enough options available to take care of these concerns. So what it gives me, it gives me power. It gives the learner empowerment over choice. It gives the learner empowerment over mode of learning and also the path of learning. The only challenge, the only thing that we need to now look at is building accountability into the learning program, and the accountability has to be two-way. The accountability has to be towards the learner and the facilitator, and look at creating digital content more so as a facilitator rather than a teacher or a trainer where you just instruct, because there is enough available, enough knowledge available as far as gathering information is concerned. It is putting that knowledge into practice. It is putting it into effective practice and getting the desired results, where the support, where the knowledge extension is required, and that is what a facilitator can always bring to the table. Therefore, any number of programs on any one topic are still far less than what the market can take. So we need to get that fear out. We need to build deer into our programs and go ahead and do our best in adopting the digital strategy and becoming digital, because we are in that blind alley with a mad dog behind us. We do not need anybody's advice. We know we need to take up the cudgels and be a winner there. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Dilip.
That is what I wanted to share.
Thank you, Dilip. That was really awesome. So before you kind of come in, I just want to say Dilip is such an integral part of our e-learning strategy, and he's made himself into an expert through sheer research, our Entertrainer Digital Learning Academy, which is our e-learning platform, which we have set up with the help of Dilip. He researched 30 platforms before he zeroed in on this particular platform on which we have set up. We also have a very interesting and a very important initiative called DigiTalks. So anybody in any organization, and we have few academic representations also here, people from the academic background. Your education institution or your organization needs a talk for about 60 to 90 minutes. It's a pro bono session. We don't charge anything for that, but we are on a mission to bring about digital learning awareness. So Dilip would be available. You can get in touch with us and we can work out a mutually convenient time, and Dilip would be available to do a session for your team, core team or the larger team, on the importance of digital learning and digitization in education, how academic institutions can put it all together in terms of e-learning content, how corporates can work with e-learning content. And if you want any suggestions on your existing LMS, then Dilip can also help you with that in terms of sprucing up the content, refining it, fine-tuning it. I think this is the way forward. The way the world is shaping up right now, this is the way forward, and we are ready with that capability, and we want to help you also acquire that capability in a better way if you need our assistance. So Dilip, thank you so much. And I think we'll probably do, Juhi, we have time for maybe a question or so. Bodies are waiting, so don't want to hold.
So we can take just one question.
Yeah. And also what we can do is, for this group, we can have a separate DigiTalks for an hour or so. So I'll post the link and the date, and you can let us know, whoever is interested. And whoever is interested in having a complete tour of the site that we have, you can please ping us, and we will have a one-to-one with you set up, and we will take you through our entire e-learning platform and the dynamics around it. Yeah.
So thank you, Hari. Thank you for the opportunity, and thank you all for listening in. And I hope was of some value to all of us.
Absolutely. Thank you, Dilip. Thank you so much. So we can take a question or two very quickly. If anybody has a question, you want to unmute and speak so that Dilip can answer that. And all of you can keep our WhatsApp group vibrant. You can keep posting your queries there also, even after the conclave. And if anybody wants to have a personal chat with any of the speakers, you're most welcome. Right, if there are no questions, then probably we move ahead.
Thank you, Dilip sir. I guess today is a day of rediscovering the definitions. In our first session, we rediscovered. Our second session, we rediscovered what is DEAR, and that's the way ahead for all of us. So, on behalf of HSSC, I would like to thank you, Dilip sir, for your insight.
Thank you so much, Juhi, and thank you, Hari, once again.
So let's make fear dear, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yes. Let's overcome the older definition of fear through the new definition of DEAR.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
So I thank all the attendees who are here with us, and